The last time I met Chamwada, we were in Seattle. I was speaking on behalf of the president. I was giving us a keynote address to the diaspora on the importance of diaspora flows, diaspora programs to Kenya. Since then, the growth of remittances is extremely rapid. We are now, as we speak, year on year, Kenya is receiving about 600 billion. Last August, 600 billion Kenya shillings per year. You can calculate that on a daily basis. And the shortcomings we have in Kenya is that we are not able to really move the levers of financial products to be able to tap the potential of these flows. 50% of when I was in the Central Bank of Kenya, we studied the problem. We started to study the problem with dramatic results. The flow of diaspora remittances in Kenya, 75% of it goes into the rural areas. 50% of it is used on education, on health, on housing. When we were in Seattle with Chamwada, there were major players in the real estate sector who were able to transact and get Kenyans to invest in the economy. The missing link in Kenya, where we are very far behind the curve, is the take-up of opportunities by commercial banking to intermediate between the diaspora and domestic economic activity. If you ask the NCBA, I've been on these forums now, I think for the 5th or 6th time in NCBA, and they are spearheading. The champion, Mr. Gashora, is himself a diaspora product with global outreach, with global financial expertise. And NCBA has been spearheading the disposition of knowledge about how to create products. The lady, I think, who is representing NCBA in this group, Rona can tell you the amount of business she has transacted across the world by going to annual gatherings of the diaspora annual meetings and transactions that are transacted by NCBA. So they are spearheading something that is left on the table by other banks. And therefore, one of the main arms of opportunities is for commercial banks like NCBA is doing to leverage transactions from diaspora into the economy and intermediating between information on investment opportunities in the main arms that I just spoke about, which are education, health, and housing. Those are the main areas. And she can tell you that there is money on the table which is not yet taken by commercial banks. The key weakness on the other side, on government, is the failure to create a diaspora instrument, like a diaspora bond. A bond is a piece of paper like this, in which you submit to government your investment. You have a rate of return. The rate of return at the moment in Kenya, with the latest borrowing, I think, from the Islamic countries, is about 8.35%. And we borrowed previously at about 10.4%. This doesn't need to be that way. We are borrowing where we have left money on the table. the money the diaspora can develop if you market a proper bond. There as well, I would like to tell Rona, you have a job to do because you can do the issuance of diaspora bonds and you can do the marketing of diaspora bonds. You can do the transactions so that the diaspora is able to, instead of borrowing left and right and having to sell our airport and all these things, you can have the diaspora create wealth for themselves by lending money to Kenya. And if you read about it, you'll find that the diaspora is more than ready. That's what they were telling us in Seattle. But we are behind the curve as the government of Kenya. What have other people done? Addis across the border has used diaspora bonds to establish the Renaissance Dam, where we are buying electricity from now. A big Renaissance Dam, which is for the future, for perpetuity. Egypt borrows with the diaspora bonds. India borrows with the diaspora bonds. We are nowhere in the map. Whereas, in fact, the statistics from CBK that I just mentioned show Kenya is the 5th biggest recipient of diaspora remittances in Africa, behind Egypt, behind Nigeria, behind Morocco. We are number 5. And yet we do not really leverage that money to take advantages to grow the economy or to help people, the diaspora, to invest. The gentleman who appeared on the screen just now, that is his own personal initiative. But we are not funding him. We are not able to create financial instruments to fund him. Thank you. I don't want to take too much time.
Wow.
We'll discuss that much.
What a summary. That's not enough. Tumpigie makofi, Daktari. You've captured it so well from policy perspective. We are not doing enough. We are number 5 in Africa, behind Ghana and the like.
Yes.
Wow. So this leads me to our next panelist, Ambassador Boaz Kidigambaya. You are the Executive Director of Institute Policy Analysis. And from policy perspective, picking up from what Daktari has said, what can we do to up that, the remittances?
Yeah, thank you very much. Hamjambo. Hamjambo tena. You seem to be sleepy. You ate too much, isn't it? I think after such an eloquent presentation, it's very difficult to keep up with the pace. But I want to take you back many years so that you see where the diaspora has come from. And perhaps before the lady who is representing the PS diaspora speaks in terms of current policy, I would like to just summarize what used to happen with diaspora, Kenyan diaspora. Until 2002 general elections, the situation was very dire, extremely dire, because most diaspora were running away from this country and they were establishing themselves in foreign countries, taking up citizenship, in fact giving up Kenyan citizenship. What saved the day to a very large extent, and I'm very proud of that moment, is the 2010 Constitution, which granted the possibility to have dual nationality. That helped a number of them to reclaim their Kenyan citizenship, and therefore the inflows you're talking about is as a result of fresh initiatives that they are now making into the inroads in Kenyan economy as of now. The reason why we had that difficult period was because there wasn't a lot of tolerance, political tolerance in this country. And those of us who served as diplomats faced very difficult circumstances In fact, I remember one day, one of the opposition leaders came to Bonn where I was serving as councillor. And the ambassador was away, so he asked to see me. And I had to report back to the headquarters to say, so and so would like to see me. It was taboo to meet opposition leaders. Yet they are Kenyans. They are entitled to services. They are entitled as of right because it is you, the taxpayers, who are paying for the upkeep of diplomats out there. And yet it was very difficult to deal with Kenyans on the average. So a number of the diaspora were running away from here. And perhaps we lost quite a big opportunity at that particular time. I'm very happy with the new arrangement where the diaspora is now being courted. And you are being courted carefully, articulately, and on purpose. I think diaspora plays a huge part in a country's development. India, for instance, the diaspora is actually literally transforming that country. And today, India is going to challenge China in terms of labor, in terms of manufacturing capacity, in terms of exports, and absorptive capacity of what they are making. They are going to challenge China very, very quickly. You can imagine if we were to do the same thing here. We are a small economy, but we are a very active economy. We are a small economy, but with huge interests in the sub-region, and I think we can play a big part in terms of our diaspora financing manufacturing capacities in Kenya to supply markets in and around our country. That's why the policy of peace and conflict resolution was consolidated to ensure you create markets where we can then have our own industries supplying those countries. And I guess the diaspora will have a very huge say in this matter. How are we going to coordinate the diaspora? I would like to leave that to the representative of the PS because they have the current policies. What I can say is that my own study, and for those of you who don't know, I published a book entitled Kenya's Foreign Policy and Diplomacy. It is the first one and probably the only one in the market at the moment. So you can have a look at it. I have discussed the diaspora issues. I have discussed how difficult it was and how unreliable diaspora would have been at that particular time for Kenya. Now we are quoting them, so there must be policies that are being developed to attract diaspora investment in the country. And the inputs you are talking about in terms of, what did you call that? Returning funds, what do you call that?
Remittances.
Remittances should be under a proper coordinated approach and strategy. And I hope the ministry is dealing with that so that we come up with something that will be very useful for the country, useful for those who are sending the money, and also useful for the investment and the economic performance of this country. So from a policy point of view, we need to look at what is it that diaspora can do and what are they able to help us do without relying on strings attached in terms of funding our economic development. If that can be done, Kenya will make very huge strides. I would like to take up a few more points.
Just a quick one, Balozi. So yes. How about at individual level organizations? You've met diaspora associations abroad. People can come together and maybe do something big for their counties. Maybe people from Bungoma, Kwale. Are there policy gaps that are hindering them from doing that? Can't they do maybe something?
Initially, there was no policy, actually, until very recently. The policy projections on diaspora were first muted during the publication of Kenya's foreign policy in 2014. I had started that process when I was a permanent secretary for Foreign Affairs, but we didn't go far because the issues were too many, and we needed a long time to understudy the situation so that we come up with good policies. The point we need to emphasize is this. We didn't have a diaspora policy because it was haphazard. People wanted to help Kenya, but they were running away because of lack of freedom of expression. And therefore, instead of reinvesting in the country, even when they were abroad, they were investing in their countries of adoption. And I think that hurt this country quite a lot. So the policy projection now, and what is now being worked out through the ministry as well as the whole government, is to try and attract that interest back to the country again. And I guess we are probably moving in the right direction in terms of harnessing those resources.
Yeah, thank you, Sana Balozi. And back to Daktari Mbui. There's been this question of the younger generation. I don't know, are they called generation 4 or 5? But I'm talking of born in America, born in the UK, born in Australia, and they have an identity crisis. You know, you tell them, I'm sending money to my brother Kumsaidia. Did he work for it? You know, why is he not working, you know? And they have no connection back home. Probably for some of you, you have a kashamba, you have some land, you left your children, so you are sending money, but they're unlikely to send money. So are we looking at dwindling remittances in future? Because many are coming back, the older generation, they are leaving their children there. Is there a problem?
No, there's absolutely no problem. The growth of diaspora remittances to Kenya have grown every year. I've just told you that the growth in the last 12 months is about 13-14% to 600 billion Kenya shillings. We are borrowing pennies from IMF and all these other fellows, and they give you situations which can be sustained in the country. Whereas you could issue, and that is what I left a legacy of issuance of bonds in the office of the president, and that is what needs to be leveraged in bond issuance by government so that they can finance the public side of economic development. On the commercial side of banking, what Rona has tried to do in different annual meetings of the diaspora annual general assemblies is to interface commercial banking with the diaspora. She did that, and I don't think she was in Seattle, but I think you saw that in Seattle. Seattle has Kenyans. They are not young fellows the way you think. There are Kenyan engineers in Boeing, millionaires. There are Kenyans in Microsoft. They are big people. And there are also people who work on normal 9 to 5 jobs. But these people have money that is looking for a place in the economy. So on the commercial banking side, what you need to do is create financial tools that allow people to send money into their bank accounts in NCBA and give them attractive prime customer service to bring money into their accounts in the NCBA for private, that's the private sector side. And then, once you do that, on the asset side of the balance sheet, which you are going to grow by increasing the number of the volumes in deposits. On the asset side, you create portfolios. You interface with the housing sector, the education sector. You intermediate with them, give them the confidence and validation of the transactions and borrowings and uses of the funds on the asset side of the balance sheet. So you grow both. You grow customers on the liabilities side, you grow business on the asset side, and you grow the private sector. You grow loans, you grow lending, you grow all these things. At the end of the day, if Gashora and his team are successful, you are ending up with NCBA being really rich and a big bank and a trusted bank for validation of remittances in ways that other banks can do. They don't hold forums like what we are holding today, and you would see the effects immediately. Chamwada, you saw these people I'm talking about in Seattle. big people in Boeing, Microsoft, or a lady who is the secretary of
Very
Microsoft.
influential Kenyans.
Exactly. So we are behind the curve. That's what India does. That's what Ethiopia does. That's what Egypt does. You do not go begging to people who are charging you 10.3%, etc. You put a caption on your bond price, sometimes even with a patriotic premium, so you are paying only 3 or 4 or 5% for that money. Thank you.
Asante sana. People have been recommending and saying, the way you are saying, for the younger generation, have a way of tying them, for lack of a better word, back home, probably open an account as they grow and the account grows, and you're telling them, let's go back home and see your cash in this bank and visit this bank or in an asset, so that they grow knowing there is something back home they can go and relate with. So this discussion can go on and on, but allow me now to twist and go to, to humanize this discussion, because we are talking about returnees and their impact back home, and in line with what we are discussing beyond remittances. So beyond sending money, then many of you have come and shared your skills and helped to transform this country. Allow me to give Jazz some 2-3 minutes. We played your story, so your presence has already been felt here, and congratulations for being bold in the creative sector. You are the youngest among these panelists. Yeah, so for you, at 38, how have you gone beyond remittances to give back to your country?
Hello, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you so much for having me. So I have a love for the entertainment industry, and I've always, I didn't think I'd be here. I was like, Lupita and I I decided to let her go, just, I was like, I'll hold the fort, no problem. You go ahead. I'll just help out at home. But I feel that at the time that I was in the industry, it was in a weird stage where we had the old guards leaving, and then we had the new up-and-coming Kenyans who were taking over from the people who had set up the systems that we now are enjoying at the moment. So there was a bit of a shift from for example, my history is from Capital FM, where we had the Brits, and do you remember the Capital FM voice? I still have it. And then it kind of changed, and the storytelling became more local, more Africa-centric. And so I found that there was a huge disconnect between what it is that I had been watching, the things that I'd been trained in, and versus what our industry was actually looking for in the direction that it was heading into. So that was a huge mind shift, if you will, because gone are the days when we were promoting our colonizers, if you will, and foreign markets, and we were trying to build our own and to publish our own. And so the learning curve has been a bit, I guess the industry has kind of been disrupted in a sense, because we don't have the infrastructure that we need to support the demand that we're trying to create. So it's been a bit of an interesting thing to watch how the industry has been metamorphosizing over the years to fit even because we had to also go through the digital migration, we had to keep up with technologies, and also the different types of content that is now available to us because of the upcoming technologies that are there. Before, you could only, for anything to see the light of day, you had to be on a TV station. Now, you just need to post it, and everyone can see what it is that you're doing. In order to be heard of, you had to have an actual interview. Somebody had to critique your work. We were just speaking with one of there was a critic, a theatre critic, who would actually go and watch plays and write it in the newspaper, and that's how you know whether or not it's good. Right now, it's just a thumbs up or a comment section. So I feel with technology opening up our platforms, I feel that it's both a blessing and a curse, because we have everyone and their mother can become a star. Before, it's just, you had to really you had to study, you had to go to an actual school, you had to, get a degree in order to actually get yourself on stage. Now, if you have a phone and internet and a few bundles, you're fine. You could trend within seconds just for falling over. It doesn't take much for you to live your best life as a performer. So I feel that for old school, I guess, artists, it kind of is difficult to cut through all the noise. If you want to become an actual performer, you have to really, really love it, because now trying to make a living from this, it has become more business oriented than it has been about the actual art of storytelling. But having said that, I do believe that Kenya there's a thirst for our stories. There's a thirst for our perspective. There's a thirst for, and a real need for us to be able to tell our stories. And we need the support of people in diaspora, as well as, I feel like, because there isn't much training, that is a huge need and a huge ask, I feel, to come here and actually teach people what it is that we actually do for a living. I feel we have a lot of YouTube group of schools when it comes to how we approach the industry. So that means that there really isn't any quality checks. And a lot of people say, oh, they're cartels. These people don't want me to be seen. No, it's usually because you're not good enough, to be honest.
Yes.
So I would say that one of the things I would like to impress on my audience here is that we would need a lot of infrastructure policies made behind and to support people who are storytellers, because as we all know, art is the last thing to be supported and the first thing to be chucked out when it comes to money. So, but we're standing strong and we're happy to be here.
Just a quick one. You went to the UK for studies.
I did, yes.
What made you come back? And in just summary, what has been your contribution to that sector, the creative sector?
I came back because two things. One, at the time, the place that I wanted to go to, my parents didn't think that there was any money in art. And so they felt that art is for guys who smoke up and and have dreadlocks at that time. And in my mind, I was like, okay, it was very hard. We didn't have very many examples of people who had been very successful in that area. So I had to come back and prove myself. Another thing, the reason why I actually stayed was, at some point I figured, why struggle abroad when I can struggle at home? So, and it's huge, because being broke abroad as an artist is not fun, and you don't know anyone, not the place to be. So I figured that back home I had a better chance of getting my stories heard than I would abroad. And indeed it was. I felt like I also had a leg up as well, because at the time they were looking for someone like me. They needed more trained actors and radio DJs at the time. So that kind of worked really well in my favor.
So you brought your skills back here.
Absolutely.
Let's congratulate Jazz. Let's clap for Jazz. Well done. Finally, before we go to government and policy issues, real quick again, we've listened to your story. We watched you in the morning, Dr. Catherine Nyongesa, and congratulations for being the first female radiation oncologist in Kenya and for inspiring many into this field. And you still serve the public sector. I would begin by giving you a chance to tell us what you are doing in the public sector beyond being a co-founder of a Texas Cancer Center. Catherine?
So, good afternoon. Yeah, and I take this opportunity to thank Alex for the work he's doing, and even just for giving me an opportunity to voice myself on this platform. Otherwise, I was born and raised in Bungoma County, born to teenage parents in a large family of 10, and this gave me, pushed me to see that I must do much more better, being the firstborn, and everyone is looking at you, what are you going to achieve? So I went to public primary schools, public secondary schools, and then University of Nairobi, and then went abroad for my master's. So before I went for my master's degree in radiation oncology, I was working in the public sector. I worked for Kakamega County as an intern, where I treated many patients. And then I came to Kenyatta National Hospital, where I've been working for over 20 years as a public servant, also attending to various patients with different ailments. But mainly I've been working in the cancer unit. And having worked in the cancer unit, you look at, they say things qua ground. So there's a big gap in the care of our patients. We needed more skills. We needed more resources to take care of our patients. And from there is when I got a scholarship through the International Atomic Energy Agency, and one of the demand was that when you go to study, they are sponsoring you, yes, but you must come back and give back to your community. And I committed that I will come back. So I came back, and I've been serving in the public sector, growing through ranks. Currently, I'm the acting medical director, and I appreciate what our government has done for me. It has allowed me to grow. And during my free time is when I go out and try to do a little bit more, because in life you need to multitask. And with that multitasking, that is how the Texas Cancer Center was born.
Okay.
Yeah.
And over 30,000.
Yes, yes, at
30,000.
Texas Cancer Center we've seen more than 30,000.
Tuwapigie makofi. Yes. I went to record her there, do interview, and in between interview we are stopped. She has to go see a patient. Tunaendelea go to see a patient, and she's talking about multitasking and even just volunteering to be interviewed that she's working. And then immediately she flew to Bungoma to go see workers in her farm. She's employed over 20.
Yeah, I have, yes, so I just don't stay in Nairobi. We have to go back home,
Yeah.
you know, when you leave Diaspora, that's one of the beauty things you enjoy back in Kenya, that you're able to go to a village, meet some community people. We also farmers with my husband, so we grow bananas, we have avocados, cattle, and also chicken, being a Luya. Yeah, so.
Asante sana. I'm also a Luya. Thank you. I'll come to your farm for some chicken. Yes, from Vihiga County, Bungoma Simbali. The university you studied, I got Abidjan well, but I fear pronouncing that. Witwatersrand. Eh?
I know. I remember when I reached the airport in Johannesburg, I was telling the taxi man, please take me to University of Witwatersrand. The guy was like, what? Do you want to go to Wits? I said, no. I told you, University of Witwatersrand. So that is where I was. So in Afrikaans, they call it Witwatersrand.
And then in a short is Wits.
Yeah, so
Kienda
it's
huko
Wits.
nasema Wits. Tumpigie makofi tena. Wow. Amazing story there. And she's not said, but her husband, Dr. Wata, is a former police officer. Propelled himself to going to pharmacy. Hayuko hapa, but maybe anasikiza. Tumpigie makofi tena. Went to University of Texas to study pharmacy, and I think that's where the name of their facility came from. On that note, I know we are really pressed for time, and we are picking lessons. You forgive us, ladies and gentlemen. As someone said, this could have been 2 days, so we will really make this real quick. Forgive us, but next time we'll try and make it larger. This is the first ever forum where returnees are sharing their experiences. Is groundbreaking. And to wind up this panel discussion, I think you gave us quite a bit of policy issues. Balozi Gishuhi, you've listened, and for you is to tell us how are these gaps going to be addressed.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon once again. I will not attempt to go through the presentation I made in the morning because we covered quite a lot of the policy issues of what it is we are doing. But I'm pleased to inform that the State Department for Diaspora is very active on the social media. And that is one place we are saying our story. Everybody is asking, what do we do? So we've decided to take advantage of the social media because we know that a lot of people are on the social media, particularly the diaspora, who are our clients, so to speak. So we are on all social media. Our handle is at diaspora_KE. At diaspora_KE. Please follow us. When it comes to issues of the arts, I know a lot of the second generation and a lot of the youth in the diaspora are really interested in the arts. I am a career civil servant, 8 to 5 every single day of my life. You can imagine my shock when my son told me he wants to be a DJ. He wanted to be a DJ, and we were grooming him to be a diplomat. And he decided that that is not his life. He cannot do 8 to 5. He wants his freedom. He wants to do his thing. So this is something that's close to me as a person, but also close to us because we are trying to also have a conversation with the second, third, and fourth generation diaspora because they are part of us. So, Chams, thank you very much for partnering with the State Department for Diaspora Affairs. The conversation beyond remittances really is timely. And like I said in the morning, this is a conversation probably we should have been able to spearhead, but for one reason or the other, we had not. And so we are so glad to participate and to learn from what is going on because all the things that we have gathered are going to form policies. After having said that, there's been a lot of conversation around remittances. We normally hesitate to start talking about remittances first because as much as, yes, we are interested in the remittances, but there's a lot more to the diaspora than just the remittances. As the State Department for Diaspora and as the Kenya government, we believe that the welfare and the rights of the diaspora come before remittances because they're already remitting. But what are we doing as a government to facilitate, to ease, to make sure that when they're remitting, they are able to do so comfortably? So their welfare and rights, it's prime. It is the main key that if you go away and you're asked, what do we do? If you said welfare and rights, because that encompasses all else that we're going to talk about. It is at the base of our pyramid. It is our bottom, the first of the bottom up. Okay? So what have we done? What are the incentives that we have had for diaspora remittances to be able to harness the diaspora savings? Our mandate actually is to develop incentives for diaspora remittances. I think that's mandate number 7 or so. We have a 9-point mandate, and one of them is to be able to get an incentive framework. I'm pleased to inform you that we already have a policy document that has been developed in consultation with the diaspora. I hope some of you have had a chance to look at it. If not, please feel free to get in touch with us and we will share that document with you and see if we can enrich it further, because we believe we are not the alpha and omega of policy making. It is a joint consultative process. So we welcome your conversation, we welcome your opinion, we welcome your points. Having said that, the second one is to harness diaspora savings, foreign direct investments, and technology transfer. Why is this important? This is important for us because as Kenya, we've kept on talking about us being the Silicon Valley of Africa, and we've touted M-Pesa for so long, but somehow we seem to be defeated to partner with our banks to be able to bring down the cost of remittances. In the morning, I said that the East African region has some of the countries with the highest globally, at 27%, the cost of remittances. And this not only discourages the diaspora from remitting, but it is also stifling the interest that the diaspora would have. So as Kenya, we are taking the conversation regionally and globally to be able to stop talking about reducing the cost of remittances and actualize the reduction of the cost of remittances. So this is an ongoing conversation. We have taken it to the EAC. It's ongoing at the EAC. We are taking it to the AU, such that as a region, we are able to speak about it. We know the developed country keeps saying, oh, if the diaspora are allowed to remit so much funds, it's money laundering, etc., etc. But it is hard-earned money. The diaspora work for this money. They should be able to be free to remit it as and when they need to remit it. The other conversation we are having regionally and globally is on the social portability benefits, the social benefits portability. Some of you have worked very hard. You have your pensions stuck in those countries. You have your investments stuck in countries abroad. When you try to bring back to port back your benefits. Say you want to move your pension from the US to NSSF, that's an example, and then you find that it is impossible to do that. Because, why is it? Because a lot of the developed countries use pensions for their development plan. They plan for that money because it's assured money for the next 20, 30 years. So their development blueprint is around the pensions funds that are domiciled in those countries. But we are saying, why are we saying this? We've had the diaspora. We've had conversations with the diaspora where they're saying they're ready to come back home. They're old, they've retired, they've made their money, but they want to be able to port even their health benefits. They want to be able to port their pensions. They want to be able to port their money. Who's going to port their money at 27%? It's impossible. A quarter of your money just inaenda tu hivyo ni kama umekuwa flushed. You know, that's a lot of money. So it's a conversation we are having to ease it for the returnees, to ease it for the other diaspora. It's an ongoing conversation. Now, what are some of the tangible things that the government has? We have the DAO CSD. I'm sure all of you are aware of this. This is an online application where the diaspora can buy securities from wherever they are. For as little as 50,000 Kenya shillings, they can buy securities from the government. On the issue of diaspora bond, yes, our central bank for a long time has been violently opposed to the idea of a diaspora bond. But however, they have now accepted that this is something that can be done, and it is an ongoing conversation. We hope maybe not in the not too distant future, we'll be able to float a diaspora bond. Diaspora associations around the globe have brought themselves round into SACCOs, and some of them have conformed to the SACCO regulations of Kenya. And we are finding that a lot of the diaspora who've organized themselves around SACCOs are able to even take advantage of the investment opportunities even within the counties. Some of the opportunities in the national government are a bit expensive, but when you go to the counties, you have the cottage industry. Say those who are in Nyandarua where they pour milk are able to put together money and put up a cooling plant for milk. They're able to do a potato processing plant. Those who come from the lakeside, some of them are speaking about having a fish processing plant. They're speaking about fish leather. Did you know fish leather is very expensive? It is premium. So some of the diaspora are saying, what if we started a fish leather industry and made use of that fish leather? So that's one. We have a diaspora investment strategy. It is that for government documentation, the current regulation is that all of it has to pass through Parliament. So this is a document that has been submitted to Parliament. As soon as it is approved, we'll be able to launch it and discuss it with you. We've had investment conference centers. We had one in 2013, December, and some of you attended online or in presential, but we've also had a big one in Atlanta. We had a smaller one in France, And we are trying to have, every time His Excellency the President travels, we are trying to have investment conferences around that time, because then he can also have a conversation with the diaspora and hear what the diaspora are saying. And these are part of what forms the policy that we are making, because we are responding and being not just imagining for ourselves, but we are responding to some of the needs that are being put across by the diaspora. One of the conversations, I'm sorry, I'm going to take a bit long, but allow me to talk about the second generation, second, third generation, fourth generation. It seems like we have not been able to communicate. Yes, we have not yet communicated, because we are at the formative stage of how to involve them, how to make them appreciate their culture. In this respect, we are partnering with Magical Kenya. Magical Kenya has around 50 homes which have already been designed and ready for that generation to go and to learn about who we are. This is throughout the whole of Kenya. We are also partnering with Konza City. We have the Konza Diaspora Center. The Konza Diaspora Center is envisioned to be like a cultural center where the second and third generation not only can come, but they can have online meetings where they're able to discuss the challenges that they have, and the social issues that they have, the mental issues that they have. It is true that some of them don't know who they are. They can't identify as from the country of destination, neither can they identify as Kenyans. And this is a challenge that even, I'm sure Ambassador Mbaya is very familiar with. It is a challenge that even the diplomats' kids have. When you travel with your kids abroad, they are not able to tell that they are Kenyans because they live abroad for so long. And then by the time they come back, they cannot really identify themselves as Kenyans. So this is an area that we are developing. I've had a couple of people proposing to work with us. I am very excited. Please, you're welcome. If you have any ideas on how we can work together to have the second, third, fourth generation diaspora identify as Kenyans. What activities can we have? What can we do to make them feel like they are Kenyans? What can we do to make them want to come home? Some of them don't even want to come home because of the potholes, etc., etc. But it's an experience all by itself. Can you imagine being rattled in the matatu? It's an experience. I remember when I went on my first posting, I had really missed the matatu rides. And the first day I went on the matatu ride, it was the worst matatu ride ever. And it healed me of that desire. So it is an experience all and by of itself. On the have apps that allow the diaspora to remit, I agree. The banks have not really, they have tried, but not to the extent that we expected them to go out all gung-ho and aggressive, to have apps which can allow the diaspora to remit money at the recommended United Nations cost of 3%. Right now, we are at 6.7% as Kenya, but we are really happy to bring it down to 6%, 3%. So we are challenging the banks, because this is not something we can do, but we can assist them if there are areas in which they need policy formulation for them to be able to have apps that can actually have the diaspora not only remit at 3% or less, but also to be able to remit a substantial amount of money. Not $1,000 and then you're blocked for the rest of the week, but to be able to remit that substantial amount. I think I've talked about the social benefits portability. Last but not least, we are launching our diaspora strategy. This is a very important document that's going to lead us for the next 3 years. It was also developed consultatively. It's on Monday morning, 11 o'clock at the Kenya School of Government. Please, we warmly welcome you such that we walk together on this journey. Thank you very much.
Wow, wow, wow. Makofi kwa balozi. Makofi hatoshi, makofi tena. I think you've killed it. I mean, you asked for policy issues. I mean, that is quite clear, and you are very good at note taking. Very good. Now, Professor Mwenja is raring to go with a question. I'll allow only 2 questions, and I'll explain why. Professor, maybe Mike, can we have a microphone for Prof? Yeah. Real quick.
Yeah, very quickly. I just want to comment on what Dr. Agasha and my sister Jazz said. Two things. We are looking at the hard capital. There is also the soft capital that we haven't talked about, which is not worth 600 billion, is worth trillions. And all these brains that you see here are worth trillions. So as we worry about the money that's coming, we should be worrying about the ideas that are coming back that are worth trillions for this country. And I think that's what the wealth of this country is. And that's why they say the richest plot on earth is the cemetery. The car that was never built, the book that was never written, the business that was never started, because they were not abled. So we need to really start talking about the soft capital, so that as we come, and the banks, if the banks are here, the things that I'll be challenging them with is we need to stop funding equity. We start funding ideas. And that's where, when I see, where is it? Front end, I think they're here. The issue of funding, because ideas are risky. We have access to FEDB and all these other, we have friends, and also going back to government in terms of policies and all that. We have friends who can be able to provide money that is cheaper and longer term, and we have a risk appetite. There are a lot of ideas we can be able to develop. And these guys coming from the other countries, they have so many ideas that are worth trillions of shillings. That we can be able to do. Now, on the hard capital, I do agree in the terms of interface with the commercial banking, provide that interface with the diaspora returnees. The other one now is on the portfolios that Dr. talked about, that the banks can do. Our people invest a lot in real estate. The problem is, it's a very disorganized space. If we organize that space into REITs that can be able to generate revenues, as you build a building, but you can have different partners that come together. We have a REIT. The same thing that we told the president. I remember the president came to me. I'm in the pension fund. I chair the central bank pension fund. And I remember when the president came to make the pitch for us to fund the housing. We simply told him, Mr. President, this is nice. We'd like to help. But first of all, we don't trust government. And we don't trust government because these are pensioners' money. We can't put it there. We don't know that that money is not going to be eaten or lost or whatever it is. But if you develop a REIT, then we can be able to look at that and see whether we can put money in a REIT. And I think diasporas, if they have a portfolio where it has several REITs of several properties and all that can be put together, they invest in that REIT. And that REIT will bring them revenues as the way to do other things as well. Very quickly, let me go back to my sister here. I'm a very strong supporter of creative. I lived in California for 15 years. So, and I have friends who are in the Screenwriters Guild. So creative arts, creative economy is very dear to me. I have friends who are in the same space. Now, the issue we have here is the definition of creative industry in this country is very restrictive. And when we had the UNACTAD conference here a few years ago, I was in the panel for creative economy. And if you look at the description of creative economy in this country versus others, even like Dubai, ours is very restrictive. If you restrict the number of activities that are within the creative economy, you also restrict the amount of funding that is possibly going to come into the creative economy. So we need to expand that, and probably Balozi is there when you're looking at this, because these are things that are coming from outside. We have all these creatives, but we need to include them in the definition of the creative industry. We expand that so that when they start looking for money, we are looking now for money to support them wholesomely as a creative space. Now, the other one that we have that I wanted to say, lack of training is one of the things. If you look at local scripts, sometimes you want to cry. Yes. And you can tell if, okay, and that's a problem. The training in terms of script writing is extremely important, and therefore our people do not have loyalty to the local content, because the local content sometimes is so shallow in the script writing that you really cannot follow the story. So when you guys go out there and you look for that help, then there's a fragmentation in the industry. I know we have the Screenwriters Guild here in this country. We need to connect you guys with the Screenwriters Guild in LA. I have friends there. We can actually probably see whether we can do that, so that we can improve the quality of our scripts, such that I can sit down and I can enjoy a drama. The same thing, I would enjoy a drama that is written by someone in Namibia or somewhere else in another country. That's one. Then the other one, and I think Daktari talked about the savannah, the digital whatever, the Silicon Savannah. Now, the most creative generation we have in this country is the Kibaki generation. Those are the guys that are writing our apps as we speak. Those guys in their 20s and 30s, because the national psyche that was created during Kibaki's time was on creativity and having to create something of value. We need to get that generation and expose them to as much front-end funding as possible.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Okay. Great.
And
so
I'll stop there.
Yeah, so great. Let's clap for his contribution. Like a TV show, begin at 9 or 10 a.m. end at 11 a.m. We have to end at some point. Ladies and gentlemen, you'll really forgive us because there's a function coming here after us. We've tried, we've learned our lessons, and we can't open for discussion again. I think we've listened. You can throw your questions to the panelists. We know how to get them. Next time we'll make it a little more, give more space to question and answer. But the good thing, many of you have already contributed your experiences. And Balozi is saying she's taken note, Professor, and on policy issues, we are good. Wow. Oh my goodness. What's the time? I didn't carry. 4 o'clock. Really, we need to wind up. It should be 30 seconds, Balozi. I'm the coordinator here. 30 seconds.
Thank you very much. I think there's something that our sister did not talk about. The enablers. I belong to a group of enablers. Those who are sent out as diplomats. And when they come back, sometimes they don't know. She talked about it in terms of the split in families and all those things. But generally, there is very little opportunity for the enablers to come and invest in this country. And I think the policy direction should work towards finding that answer.
Okay, enablers, take a note. Final. 30 seconds. He took 30 seconds. You're 30 seconds.
I just wanted to put it out there. If you're looking for people to partner with, we have the Voice Actors League of Africa, who can come and help tell stories that are Kenyan. One of the things that I feel that diaspora is really lacking is seeing themselves and hearing stories and seeing how amazing we can be here. And so I would pose it to you to maybe come and talk to us, the creatives, and commission stories that we can then support your bid to get the different generations excited about being Kenyan and coming back home.
Great. You can partner with Akina Jazz. Daktari Nyongesa, your parting in 30 seconds.
Yeah, so for me, I think what I learned when I was out there is the work ethics. And that's what also we need to bring back home to encourage our people, the way they work. When you go to US, you find people work hard. So that is the same skill that we need to bring back home, encourage our youth that they need to brand themselves very well, position themselves very well for this market, for this economy, so that people can invest in them. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. Balozi, Boaz, Maya, you've spoken, so your parting shot, Dr. Mbui.
Quickly, just to respond to my CBK colleague. The world is looking for Africa's content, creatives. The world is busy looking for content, and it is there. It needs to be supported. I support you. Thank you.
Okay, wow, those are 20 seconds. Balozi.
On the diaspora stories, the diaspora haven't heard themselves, diaspora haven't seen themselves. We heard this from the diaspora, and we have launched a diaspora award. The first inaugural edition will be in December. We are just sending out the calls for nominations from the diaspora, for the diaspora. So we are not going to participate in the nominations. It will be the diaspora choosing who they want to be awarded. We have 14 different categories, and we are hoping that it will be successful. On that note, we are looking for sponsors for awards. So if your organization has some goodies which you want to be given out, please partner with us such that we are able to have a memorable Diaspora Award this December. Thank you.
Okay. On that note, allow me to congratulate our panelists for a very incisive discussion. Tuwapigie makofi. They are amazing, amazing, and quite rich with very many policy issues being discussed here. So as we step down, I'll be introducing the next segment. And Asanteni Sana, I think photos have already been taken. We'll capture these photos. Unless, Edison, would you want us to stand, or that can come later? Yeah, okay. Tusimame. Tupigieni makofi jameni.